Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's edition, I want to talk about the third possible favorite for this year's 2023 Tour de France. First and second, Jonas Vingegaard and, of course, Tadej Pogačar. These two guys can't get beat. They're first and second. They're going to have to battle against each other. And Tadej Pogačar, as you guys know, is my outright favorite. But Jonas Vingegaard clearly at possibly just that percentage missing overall in terms of being able to beat Tadej Pogačar, so I got him second. But third is a difficult place to pick, guys. Last year, when you saw Ineos with Geraint Thomas, I thought, okay, if Geraint Thomas races intelligently, he follows the two guys the whole time, stays patient, doesn't get carried away, doesn't try to destroy Jonas Vingegaard or Tadej Pogačar on one of the early climbs, Geraint Thomas could podium at the Tour de France. That's what he did. He is a 2018 Tour de France winner, so you know he has some class in his legs. He raced intelligently last year. It was a clear, easy pick to take Geraint Thomas as third in last year's Tour de France when it began. This year, though, I have 9 solid riders that can go a podium here at the Tour de France. Couple of them, 2, 3, you could say, well, you take like Adam Yates. Adam Yates rides for UAE Team Emirates, so he's going to be working for Tadej Pogačar, so it's hard to see him podium. But if Tadej Pogačar caught COVID on day 1, 2, 3, or 4, all of a sudden Adam Yates, you got to think about him as going in there being top 3. Or if there's some strange tactics where Adam Yates is riding that good, he could just pace up Tadej Pogačar the whole time and finish third at the Tour de France. But you have to be pretty remarkable. He has the legs to finish top 3, but I don't see him there. Although I do have him on the list just in case. Now, you go down from Adam Yates, you look at Egan Bernal. Egan Bernal, of course, we saw a couple years back where he got injured, went into the back of the bus while training in Colombia, and he's had a hard time recovering. But the results that I've seen him have this year, when we're talking about just at Dauphiné just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, sorry, then we're talking about a 12th finish there for Egan Bernal, so just outside of the top 10 finish. And Egan Bernal, with that result, he looks solid. He was there in the front group, and you're going to see the Colombian rider keep getting better and better. The only thing that's held him back, really, is every race that he's done this year, he's had some little crashes and little injuries caused from those crashes. So that's why I have him a little further down on the list. But if Egan Bernal comes and leaves Dauphiné, trains right, comes all the way into the Tour de France, we could see the old Egan Bernal come back, and all of a sudden he could easily go a podium here at the Tour de France. We look a little further back from Egan Bernal, you have Thibaut Pinot, right? All 3 of these guys that I've just mentioned are guys that are possible if they arrived in with top form. And Thibaut Pinot in 2019 at the Tour de France, if he didn't have his injury late going into that final week of the Tour de France, he might have been the next French winner of the Tour de France in 2019. The only problem I see with Thibaut Pinot is his form's always all over the map. And every time I've read interesting life stories about Thibaut Pinot, he's talking about having his farm and taking care of all of his animals, and that cycling's not the biggest priority on his list. Well, if it's not the biggest priority on your list, that's why you see his form always dropping down and then being good at some moments and bad at others. Of course, he's had the injury with the back difficulties from crashes at Tour de France. I believe it was 2020 when it was raining in Nice. That was an issue, and it's plagued him for a while. But Thibaut Pinot, coming from the Giro that just finished, remember, he was 5th at the Giro, won the KOM jersey, was aggressive on a lot of the mountain stages, trying to win some stages, too aggressive, which we know, I call that on the butterfly effect. But Thibaut Pinot, if he holds that form from the Giro, if he hasn't been farming, if he hasn't been doing other things than just resting, recovering from the Giro, and training properly to get in the Tour de France, you got to have Thibaut Pinot as a rider that can go third at the Tour de France. But the Frenchman has all kinds of difficulties. I think when he's not at racing and he's back at home and he's trying to enjoy life a bit too much instead of just being a bike racer. So that's why I have him a little further down on my list. Now we start looking at other guys. Mikel Landa. This is when we start getting into guys that are serious for going to top 3 at the Tour de France. The Spanish rider is a remarkable rider. It's not very flashy, I'll give you that. He's definitely on the quiet side, but he has been 4th at the Tour de France before. He's podium at the Giro d'Italia. So the Spanish rider has to be on your list when you're talking about guys that can go up there onto the podium and do a big showing if everything's lined up right. Probably won't be flashy because Mikel Landa is definitely not about flash, but he is about consistency. As long as he can stay off the road, then you know the Spanish rider is a solid bet for going up there for top 3. Now, we start looking at other riders like Rigoberto Urán from EF Education. Rigoberto Urán is capable of podium at any Grand Tour in the world because the Colombian rider is class through and through. But a lot like the Yates brothers and a lot like some of the other riders out there, he's not always on form from February through October, so it's difficult to predict when the Colombian rider, Rigoberto Urán, will decide that he wants to podium at his next Grand Tour. But he's been quiet this year, so this looks like a good time for Rigoberto Urán to put in some solid rides and follow in the wheels. Very intelligent rider. He's always patient, always following the wheels. And so this is a rider that you got to put down as a solid threat to go podium at this year's 2023 Tour de France. Now, my next favorite up there for a podium has to be Jai Hindley. Jai Hindley is a big-time threat. This was starting to get complicated when I tell you my final pick of who I believe will go top 3. Then the list so far is just guys that I think could be up there for sure, but not my favorite yet. Jai Hindley made it difficult when I'm picking his name because he can legitimately go top 3, and I thought he might be the guy to go top 3 at this 2023 Tour de France, but I got another guy in mind still. But Jai Hindley, remember he won the Giro d'Italia last year, took it from Richard Carapaz on the last mountain climb with about 5 kilometers to go when he dropped Richard Carapaz riding for Team Ineos and soloed to win his first Grand Tour victory of his career. Now, he was second at the Giro a couple years before that too, so we know Jai Hindley has some ability to go up there and climb with the best. But I still don't have him down as my outright podium favorite because I got another guy in mind. Now, before I get to him, my last pick up here that can go podium, but it's not my favorite, it's going to be Matheus Skilmos. Skilmos from Trek Segafredo. Trek Segafredo have a hidden gem right here with Skilmos. I love the way he raced Tour of Swiss. He was intelligent, always spot on with his tactics. I saw a lot of the comments where they said Kim Anderson might have been the director sportif in the car back there, and I worked with Kim Anderson, very intelligent director back there, so if it was the director at Tour of Swiss, he did an excellent job for Skilmos because every mountain stage, 3 mountain stages in a row there at Tour of Swiss this year in 2023, he was absolutely excellent with his tactics, and it was amazing how much he had the other riders working around him while he was able to sit back, even while wearing the race leader's yellow jersey. So Skilmos might be coming into some top form here at the Tour de France. Certainly that win at Tour of Swiss has bumped him up to a rider you got to think about as a possibility going podium. But my outright favorite, my pickup here on Beyond the Covers, who I'm going to take for a podium here to finish 3rd at this year's Tour de France, well, I'm going Simon Yates. The Australian rider is a remarkable rider. He won the Tour of Spain back in 2018, dominated. Tactically, he was spot on that year. Remember him from the Giro d'Italia when he won stage 14 and won the individual time trial stage, but had the knee issues. That stage 14 when they did the circuit laps there in Torino, that was a remarkable win, and he raced intelligently following all the GC favorites because he was down a few minutes on the general classification. Followed them throughout all the circuit, let all the GC guys attacking him left and right. Then he soloed in after the last climb and said, "See you guys in the douches," and had time to celebrate as he crossed the line to win stage 14 of last year's Giro. Now, this year, he's been quiet. Simon Yates normally wins something every year, and this year, with the exception of stage 5 at Tour Down Under, he's missing a big-time quality win to his resume, but the last time he's raced his bike was the first road stage of Tour of Romandie when he dropped out sick. That means he's had about 2 months and a couple weeks to get ready for the Tour de France starting here at 2023. And I believe Simon Yates is coming into this Tour de France with his sole objective of putting on a show here for us fans sitting on the Chesterfield. So I'm going to say Simon Yates is my outright favorite to podium here at the Tour de France. We see these first 2 stages, and I want to talk a little bit about them because when we get into these first 2 stages, Because they're hilly stages, not big mountains, but solid climbs, stages 1 and 2, my first 4 favorites are going to be, of course, Tadej Pogačar has to be listed as a guy that can win one of these stages 1 and 2. Wout van Aert, Jumbo-Visma, the big guy, is definitely going to be focusing on grabbing a race leader's yellow jersey for himself early on these first 2 stages. Julian Alaphilippe, the Frenchman, he showed fine form at Dauphiné, winning the stage. Now he's got a few more days of training and a couple days of races because he just finished his national championship. Not doing well because FDJ dominated the French national championships. But Julian Alaphilippe, I expect to be given a run for stage 1 and 2 of this year's Tour de France. Let me remind you guys, 2019, he won on stage 3, took the race leader's jersey. 2020, when they were in Nice, he won on stage 2, took the race leader's jersey. And then 2021, he won on stage 1 and again took the race leader's yellow jersey. So the Frenchman, Julian Alaphilippe, who's had a lot of health issues with crashes and injuries the past 2 years, looks like his form is coming all the way up here for Pseudo Quickstep. So you know the Frenchman, Julian Alaphilippe, is going to be 100% motivated to take another stage victory of the Tour de France and another race leader's yellow jersey in stage 1 and 2. My fourth outright favorite for stages 1 and 2 has to be Mathieu van der Poel. Now, Mathieu van der Poel, we all know the kind of show that he can put on. He's on fine form. We saw him already winning up in Belgium at the Blue Oise Tour. And now we know he's coming into the Tour de France, stage 1, with the ideal of taking the race leader's jersey and a stage victory in 1 and 2. Stage 1 looks ideal for the Netherlands rider. But if he can't win stage 1, he still has the possibility of winning stage 2. Now, stage 1 was more ideal because you have a climb, that 2-kilometer steep climb that'll finish with about 10K to go and drop down in the finish. But when we go into stage 2 and we start talking about the Jaskibel climb, it's going to summit with about 17 kilometers to go on the stage. This climb, done it many times there near San Sebastian, and it's right along the coast. They're going to climb it the opposite direction that we normally see it in Classica San Sebastian, so they're going to come up from the bottom. It's twisty and stuff back there. Has a lot of stair steps where it backs off, which is going to be the ideal scenario for Mathieu van der Poel to be able to get over a climb of this distance. It's a solid climb at about 8 kilometers long, but every time when it starts to ease off and stair step up, those are sections where a rider like Mathieu van der Poel will be able to recover. Remember, Mathieu van der Poel won Milan-San Remo this year, and he raced the final 2 climbs, the Poggio and the Cipressa, in perfect and fantastic tactics, following Tadej Pogačar the whole time, and then lighten up the Slovenian along with a few of the other favorites there at Milan-San Remo with 200 meters to go, and then dropped everyone just over the top. Bombed down the descent there and then rode it in to win Milan-San Remo. He's got Paris-Roubaix on his resume from this year too, so the guy is all class. There's no doubt about that. And you know Mathieu van der Poel is looking for the race leader's yellow jersey on stages 1 and 2 of this year's Tour de France. So, going to be an exciting race. We're talking about under a week to go here for the 2023 Tour de France. So make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.